This is the Hoka Speedgoat 4, and if you're in the market for a versatile trail shoe that can handle just about any kind of terrain, well, this just might be the shoe for you. Let's jump right in.
Welcome.
The Hoka Speedgoat 4 is a very popular and versatile trail shoe that can handle just about any kind of terrain, be rocky, muddy, snow, or loose gravel. There are a number of features about the Hoka Speedgoat 4 that we will get into with this video. Right off the bat, I'm very excited to have this shoe and have a chance to review it and talk about it here on the channel. We're going to start with jumping straight into some of the features. First of all, the upper is very durable. It is very breathable and very protective of the foot. As you can see, it is quite kind of a thicker material, and even some of this 3D overlay is not very obstructive. But what I will say is that the overall features and feel of the shoe feel very protective, especially features such as the front toe cap and the back heel counter, which we'll get into in a second. So right off the bat, one of the first things that you can see is the construction of the shoe and just how well made it is. It feels very solid in the hand, and this thing is like the Hummer H4 of shoes out there. This thing is solid. So more details about the upper, you can see quite a bit of 3D overlay that does work and function well with the eyelet chain about the top of the shoe as it connects to the tongue, which you can see does have a shoe stay here at the base as well as midway up the tongue. The tongue itself is not very thick at all. It's actually quite thin, but it doesn't feel flimsy in the hand at all. And I'm not sure if you can see here, but the actual tongue does reach quite a ways medially and laterally across the top of the foot, and even more so inside. That is a fully gusseted tongue to keep that foot free of dirt and debris. I will say that there is quite a bit of waterproofing that does go on in the shoe, so the feet can feel very dry. And then moving into the toe cap, as I said before, you can see how stout of a toe cap this is. This is quite the shoe that is built for just about anything. It is built for longer distances, especially over trails, anything from 30, 50, even 100 miles, 50K or 100K in the ultra marathon category. Quite a bit of overlay to protect that foot. And then moving to the back of the shoe, you can see just how stout of a heel counter this is. It is quite the rigid heel counter. I'm not able to bend it at all, and there's quite a bit of overlay over the back of that heel counter. There's a nice heel tab for ease of use on and off. I will say that donning and doffing or getting the shoe on and off, it does take a little bit of effort. This can be quite the rigid upper in terms of just getting that shoe on, but once it's on the foot, it does feel very secure. And we'll get into the fit here in a second. So more about the upper. This is quite the plush shoe. It does have quite a bit of padding. I'm feeling the heel counter back here, and there's actually quite a deep heel pocket, and just where my fingers are kind of touching as it touches your Achilles, quite a bit of comfort and padding. A special note about the laces. These laces, I'm actually a huge fan of these laces. They are not plush by any means, but they're not thin, and they don't really stretch that much. It's almost like the ideal width in terms of the thickness of the tongue and as it lays on top of the foot, and as it works with the shoe. The eyelet chain material doesn't actually connect like some of my other Hokas do, so I feel like the spacing of the eyelet chain with the laces and the tongue is pretty satisfactory. I didn't have any problems with this shoe coming untied or being too long, which I do notice in some shoes. So overall, I'm very pleased with that. Then jumping right into the insert of the shoe, something I like to do with shoes is pull out the insert and then take a look. This is just kind of your standard ortho light insert from Hoka. It's not overly thick or thin. It feels just right, kind of right there in between. There it is, Ortholite on your screen. And taking a look at the inside of the shoe, just as where that heel does make contact, there appears to be perhaps a drainage port that does allow a little bit of that water to escape the shoe. And I did just look at the front of the shoe without the shoe liner, and it does appear that there are some drainage ports in there for a little bit of dryness on the trail. There is some decent arch support inside the shoe. It does work well with that insert as well as the midsole here. So good job, Hoka, in creating some nice arch support to decrease fatigue of the foot. And moving into the midsole, or the heart of that shoe, this is Hoka's signature cushion. It's their signature and proprietary blend of EVA. This is not a super foam, but it is a very responsive, cushiony, and bouncy foam from Hoka. And I do say that the way that it feels under step, it doesn't feel mushy or sluggish. It actually feels quite nice. It feels peppy and energetic, but at the same time feels very protective and cushioning of the foot. And you get a decent amount of it. That's going to be 32 millimeters in the heel and then 28 millimeters in the forefoot for a 4 millimeter offset. The overall weight of the shoe does feel light in the hand, and according to Hoka, that's going to be 10.8 ounces. Not the lightest shoe on the market, but given that it's designed to go the distance and stay one with the foot, and then that stack height with that EVA foam from Hoka, that's actually not a bad weight. And more about the midsole and just the overall shape of the shoe, you can see just how wide the front of the shoe is, kind of that landing platform. The idea behind this shoe is that you're going to be out there on some loose and unpredictable terrain, and Hoka has done a good job in creating a safe platform of its height of the stack height and then the width of the landing platform to help give you a little bit more stability and protection out there on the trails. And with that being said, the way that the midsole does work with kind of that heel pocket inside the shoe, it does seem to have some lateral and medial support of the material of the midsole that kind of rides up the middle and the side of your foot to kind of cradle and hold that foot in place. It both keeps it from gyrating side to side, but it also can kind of serve as almost like an ankle gauntlet to protect your foot in the case of any kind of ankle roll or slipping of the trails or anything like that. I feel like Hoka has done a good job in keeping safety in mind of its intended users, which are going to be mostly trail runners. Considering the shape of the shoe, this is going to be a rocker design. Signature to Hoka is it's going to be that early stage meta rocker, giving a little bit more of a propulsive feeling, a natural gait cycle, a little less ankle flexion throughout the gait to decrease the amount of energy required on the user in order to complete the gait cycle and overall improve efficiency. And that's super important, especially when you're considering the shoe can go up to 100 plus miles. And now moving into that outsole, this is probably the prime prize of the shoe. If it's not for the cushioning, then it's definitely going to be this Vibram Mega Grip outsole. This is the ideal surface for a shoe like this. It is grippy, it is sticky, the lugs are not overly aggressive or deep. There's just the right amount of rubber on the outsole, and Hoka has done a good job in removing unnecessary foam to decrease the weight. And then considering the geometry of the shoe, you can almost see that there's a little bit of forgiveness in the forefoot, considering where the user is going to be running on the front of the shoe, especially kind of that midfoot strike, that is allowing the middle of the forefoot on the outer to flex in and out during the gait cycle. So Hoka has done a good job, and I gotta say, when running in the shoe and feeling it under step and just the overall riding comfort, it does feel almost like a suspension system that you're kind of riding upon and within. The shoe does a good job, instead of having you ride on top of a huge slab of foam, that you're almost cradled within this nest of foam and then a slab underfoot, giving a nice, comfortable, and safe sensation underfoot. So I feel like Hoka's done a very good job. And then considering the actual traction of the shoe, I have put this shoe through wet conditions, slippery conditions, muddy conditions, rocky conditions, you name it, uphills, downhills, and I've always felt secure and safe with this shoe, specifically because of this outer. And that's even more of a testament to Hoka, considering the stack height, especially with this shoe. You consider that this is well off the ground, and then where it's placing you, by the time that it reaches your foot, you're a significant amount of distance away from the actual surface. So if there were to be a tip of the shoe, that could be exaggerated even more so on your body. But with the consideration of safety with the overall design of the shoe and its traction, I feel like the runner has a little less to worry about and can focus more on the task at hand, getting the run in, and worrying less about rolling an ankle with this Hoka Speedgoat. And now moving into some dislikes of the shoe. I did dislike kind of the upper. I felt like it was a little rigid and not super supple when it was being laced up, and upon the top of the foot, I felt like it was kind of working against me in a way, especially about kind of that midfoot. As I was kind of toeing off there, I felt like there was maybe some scrunching going on of the material. It wasn't too bad, you know, you kind of got used to it, but it was kind of not a wonderful sensation, to say the least, in the beginning of the ride. And I felt like it does kind of soften up over time. Another thing that I am not a super fan of is the fact that these sidewalls of the shoe, both the medial and the lateral side of the shoe, it almost can feel like it's pressing and compressing the middle of the foot here. You consider where the base of your first metatarsal is going to be here, as well as the base of your fifth metatarsal. I felt like there was some compression going on, especially about the base of the fifth here, this little bony bump here, kind of where the 3D overlay from the heel counter as it meets the midsole here, and there's like a little medial and lateral wall. This is kind of the lateral, I can feel it here. It's about 3 to 4 millimeters, but just enough to kind of be pushing into the side of the foot. It wasn't always noticeable, but in some instances I could kind of feel it working against me and pressing in. But I think I understand what Hoka's trying to do, creating these little sidewalls here to kind of protect and hold that foot in place. So a little squeezing versus, you know, the trade-off is a little squeezing of the foot versus it being overall sloppy. I will take, I'll take it being a little bit tight for the trade-off being safety, because the last thing you want to do is have an acute injury. I'd rather take the annoyance over the injury any day. It's not a deal breaker, but perhaps in future iterations, we can consider maybe increasing the amount of material down the foot here, and so it's more about the kind of where the toes begin, so you really have a nice comfortable fit medially and laterally of the midsole, but that also might increase the weight of the shoe. So, but overall, that's about it. I don't have much else to say in terms of the cons or dislikes of the shoe. I feel that this is a very well put together package. Hoka has done a lot of thought and consideration of the runner with this shoe, this Hoka Speedgoat 4. It is still available online, but the newest versions is out today, that Hoka Speedgoat 5. So if you can find the Speedgoat 4, you're definitely in luck, because this is a great shoe, and you probably can save a little bit of money if you were to get the previous iteration, the Speedgoat 4, prior to the Speedgoat 5. Overall, the Hoka Speedgoat 4 is a wonderful, well-rounded trail running shoe that offers stability, traction, and comfort over long distances on the trail. Very lightweight considering the stack height. It's breathable and it's stable. The midsole is not overly mushy. It's actually quite responsive and comfortable. So this shoe, I would say, is a good mix of performance and comfort, both for the seasoned runner and the beginner. So I feel like Hoka's done a very good job in putting together a nice package for the runner. So that is it for the review of the Hoka Speedgoat 4. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you won't mind considering liking and subscribing to the channel, I really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next one.